Even though this is such a big push, the defense with this deck is crazy if you know how to play it. Most of the opponent's units are already half dead before they even cross the bridge. It's honestly insane how Kang reverted his elixir disadvantage while defending for almost no damage. I've had a lot of fun exploring new Clash Royale decks recently, and I'm hoping that didn't increase my screen time. If you're wondering, I have not checked. Anyways, ironically, in my journey to whatever this time span ends up morphing into, I have found someone who probably hasn't changed their deck since Clash Royale started that thing where you can win if you bribe Supercell with money, meaning virtually since the beginning of time. So how did I come to that conclusion, you might ask? Well, it is a Giant Skeleton Hog Rider deck with Barbs, Guards and Minion Horde, which is somewhat reminiscent of one of those OG homemade mid-ladder decks, but aside from that, I don't really know why I said that. But truly, we are not here to dump on this player. His name is Kangdone, I'ma just call him Kang for now, who has consistently been at the very top of Ultimate Champion, competing with the best players in the world, with his very own unique deck that breaks all the rules. Seeing this, I had to further investigate to find out how Kang from Marvel achieved what probably has never been achieved before, and asked him if I could commentate some of his games. I apologize for the nickname in advance. He did not sign up for that part, to be fair. Jumping into the first game against Rising Star at 2700. Rising Star seems to be using a Executioner Goblin Drill deck, and here comes the fun part. Kang's deck has a lot of answers to the Goblin Drill. And this video wouldn't be complete without a giant skeleton close to the tower. While it doesn't seem like it's going to connect immediately, the bomb just barely clutches it for Kang. Unfortunately though, his minion horde dies immediately. The Golden Knight still gets defended though. Both of them chill for a second. We have seen the giant skeleton on offense, but look at how effective it is on defense as well. I think this card is very underrated. I guess it just doesn't fit into most decks because it's 6 elixir and not very much a win condition. Hawk comes down, lightning comes down to kill the cannon, and even guards, a snowball and the activated king tower can't stop the hawk from getting one hit at the tower. Minion horde doesn't quite reach the tower, but the Hawk Lightning combination paired with the Evo Firecracker eat up his opponent's last hopes and dreams. How a homemade deck can dominate the field like that, I will never know. But I'm not sure if anyone else would have been able to do it as smoothly as that. Next game against David, who is running the deck that everyone likes to face the most. Lumberloon, Freeze, P.E.K.K.A. I might have to rethink my decision to pick up the game again. Kang unfortunately misplaced the guards, takes a ton of damage while being low on elixir. This is not looking too good. Strap in for everyone's favorite part. Lumberjack plus Balloon at the bridge. He goes Minion Horde, gets arrowed away immediately. Maybe Lightning would have been better here, but either way, that's tower down for Kang. And Hog Rider plus Firecracker aren't quite enough for retaliation. But for now, they are just going to regain their elixir and start over again. Kang tries to punish the P.E.K.K.A. in the back opposite lane with barbs and giant skeleton at the bridge. He takes the tower and threatens the 3 crown. I think this worked out pretty well. David had to spend on defense, so he couldn't support his P.E.K.K.A. and it can be taken out quite easily. But here comes the real test. Lumberjack balloon in the pocket, but the same thing is not gonna work twice. And here is the thing. David does not have a cheap and effective answer to the Evo barbs. So Kang, on the other hand, can just get a ton of damage at the King Tower. Since David doesn't have any elixir to defend. Or not enough for that matter. David says wow, which probably means well played on that sequence. Now the momentum has completely shifted 180 degrees and the comeback is real. The giant skeleton barely survives and David basically gives up because he knows there's no chance anymore. I doubt that such a comeback would have been possible with a quote-unquote normal Hog EQ deck or Hog Cycle deck. But let's jump into the last game. It's the most recent out of the bunch. His opponent is playing Elixir Golem, which can be quite frustrating to go against because it doesn't require as much skill. However, I did notice that Kang's deck has a lot of defensive cards, which might help him to hold on against these big Elixir Golem pushes. Kang is slightly ahead in damage, but unfortunately his opponent's King Tower is already activated. Kang drops a giant skelly in the back slightly before the 1 minute mark, which I think is the right decision because Elixir Golem really benefits from double elixir. So even with a 4.3 average elixir deck, waiting might not be the best move. Kang's push only results in a little bit of damage because of that really peculiar interaction with the goblin machine, and now he's slightly behind in elixir. I'm surprised his opponent does not start an E-Golem push to take advantage of that, but I think the reason he didn't do it right away was because the giant skeleton nicely clogs up the lane for Kang. After a minion horde in the pocket to take care of the air units, Kang proceeds to go for a Hog Rider to turn defense into offense, but his opponent easily defends it. Now we finally see an E-Golem push, which is something that makes most players want to close the app, but fortunately Kang has his giant skeleton and both of his Evos in cycle. Even though this is such a big push, the defense with this deck is crazy if you know how to play it. Most of the opponent's units are already half dead before they even cross the bridge. It's honestly insane how Kang reverted his elixir disadvantage while defending for almost no damage. But this doesn't last for long, as the Evolution Goblin Cage defends everything for an off-the-wall positive elixir trade for the opponent. Now Kang has to defend without his evolutions at hand, but even the opponent's spells, as well as 33 elixir at the bridge, just can't seem to break through, especially because of that giant skeleton bomb. Kang leaks for a second and then goes in again to ensure that there's no way that he loses this damage advantage. Thanks to the big guy made out of bones, the Hog Rider even gets a hit at the tower to seal the deal. That counter push looks excruciating to deal with at first, but mind you, that giant skeleton bomb is going to explode onto absolutely everything. And somehow the Hog Rider manages to sneak through and ends the game just a little bit ahead of time. What I noticed is that this deck has a lot more tanky defensive cards in comparison to other Hog decks, making it pair well against, for example, siege decks. It also has a particularly slow cycle, especially with the lightning, instead of, for example, earthquake or fireball. So it's best for double elixir, which for most Hog decks isn't the case. I've also tried the deck myself. It worked pretty decently for me, and honestly it's just a lot of fun. But I do like to swap the minion horde for a dart goblin or bats. They also provide air defense while baiting out arrows, making them a cheaper alternative. Plus, I think their evolution is much better than the barbarian evolution. I think the takeaway from this is that you don't have to play a meta deck to succeed in the game. Sometimes it's simply best to use what you're comfortable playing.